absolute pleasure to welcome you all to today's interactive session on practical generative AI implementation. This session is part of our ongoing efforts to explore how cutting edge technologies can be transformed into real world solutions that drive innovation, efficiency, and impact. Generative AI has quickly evolved from a buzzword to a transformative force. Whether it's creating content, assisting in decision making, or optimizing workflows, AI is no longer the future, it's the new now. This session is designed to help us move beyond theory and into hands on, actionable understanding. We are joined today by Mr. Arun Jagannathan, an incredible mind who will share his expertise and experience to guide us on how to practically adopt the implement generative AI in our fields. Before we dive in, I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to Dr. Shuchin Bajaj for connecting us and to all the participants for joining us and to our speaker for taking the time to share his insights with us. To begin this session on an inspiring note, it gives me great pleasure to invite Dr. Shuchin Bajaj, founder and director of Ujala Cygnus, to share a few words with us. Over to you, Dr. Shuchin.
Thank you very much, Vandana ma'am, and thank you so much, Arun sir, for sparing your really precious time to educate us about this new technology that has come into a big way into our lives, all our lives, and it has been such a sudden change. I was speaking to somebody just yesterday that we have been really privileged as a generation to go through a life where even phones were not there. I mean, we had no means of communication at all except for writing postcards and letters, and now we are seeing this immense transformation coming in. And we would love to listen to you today. We know what brilliant talks you give and what brilliant completely trans lectures you've been engaging in, and really excited to learn about the cyborg mindset. Uh, what I would like to just, the entire team is here today. It is very heartening to see so many people in an internal call. We've never had, I think, so many on a business call. So it's good to see that so many of them are interested in the cyborg mindset. But I would just like to just mention this here to the team that the cyborg mindset isn't really replacing you with machines or replacing our team members with machines. I think it is about augmenting compassion with computation, empathy with evidence, and intuition with insight. I don't think it is a man versus machine conversation that we are indulging in here. It is more of how we can upgrade ourselves and upgrade humanity in general to make sure that we use the best of ourselves when we put ourselves into any work or personal situation. So thank you once again for joining us, all of you, and warm welcome to all of you. And thank you, Arun sir, once again for sparing time. Back to Vandana ma'am.
Thanks, Dr. Bajaj. Now, moving on to the highlight of today's session, we are fortunate to have us Mr. Arun Jagannathan. He's EdTech founder and AI deep knowledge and hands-on experience in the world of generative AI. He will be sharing insights on how generative AI can be practically implemented, challenges to watch out for, the real examples that showcase its impact. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Arun to take us forward with the session.
Thank
Over
you.
to Mr.
Yeah, thank you, Vandana ji. Thank you, Dr. Suchin. So I'm going to be sharing my screen over here. So, and I know that it has a slightly. Are you able to hear me?
To share.
You're able to hear me, right? And you're able to see my screen. Yeah, okay, great. So just wanted to say that, I know that it may look like a slightly scary looking robot that I put over there. Intention is not to say that we become robots, but I just wanted to introduce this concept to you of what a cyborg mindset is and how, as Dr. pointed out, there is a certain thing that I bring to the table as a human, and how do I augment what I have with AI. So just to give a background of what my experience has been, So I come from the education sector. So I've already had some enterprises, startup ventures, which are in the training space. And a lot of what I'm going to share with you is I just wanted to give a couple of things so that we get comfortable. So the first thing that I want to tell you is I'm not a technology guy, right? So I'm not going to talk about AI from a perspective of machine learning and all these terms that you would have heard, but I'm going to share with you what has been my experience of using AI and how I think all of us can leverage it. So when so just to give a background, I also had offline centers. So when we went online, March 2020, exactly 5 years ago, so I've been doing a lot of teaching online, and one of the things is, the technical aspect of things. So this is one popular quote that I think almost all of us have seen. If you are on LinkedIn, you probably have seen it. If not, then this is something that went viral because somewhere it kind of spoke a truth. So if you see what it says AI will not replace you, a person using AI will. And when you think about it, what it really means is we need to figure out what does a person using AI look like? What does a person using AI do on a day-to-day basis, right? And what does he do? How does he operate? Correct. So my submission of what I feel is a mindset is how do we work with AI, right? So what I'm going to do in this presentation is I'm going to talk about certain things so when I came in and I started understanding about AI, and this is my honest opinion on this, there are a lot of technical people who come and try to explain AI. And for the life of me, I could not understand because they would speak for like 1-2 sentences, and after that they would start giving me some technical, drivel, and I found it very hard to keep pace with that. But some of these things I realized for myself, and what I'm going to give you is certain questions that I was thinking to which I found answers. And once I've done that, I'll probably take you through one part where I'm going to show you, I've got some prompts and I'm going to be showing you how we can work with AI. So that's how I'm going to plan the first two, and then we have some Q&A towards the end. So I would definitely love to see if I can answer your questions. And I believe we have a segment kept for Q&A. So that's how we're going to structure this. I hope all of you are able to kind of hear me and be present on this. So just wanted to start off first by kind of talking about this, which is, I think, somewhere the alignment is a bit off, but we hear about technologies, right? Like I've heard about blockchain, I've heard about Web3, I heard about a lot of technologies, but really are all of the technologies at the same level? Well, it turns out that they are not. And there are these things called general purpose technologies. And the deal with general purpose technologies is they have a way by which they don't impact just one sector, but their impact is across sectors. If you see pre-industrial era, the first invention of a human was to domesticate animals, right? Wheel was an invention. Someone said fire, but fire is really a discovery, not an invention, right? But if you think about these inventions, like for example, wheel, we are still using it in our cars. So it's so fundamental that we are still using it. Sailing ships, right? Which is why the Europeans were able to colonize the rest of the world, or the printing press like the Gutenberg press, which eventually caused religion to propagate, right? And if you see closer to the last 500, 600 years, you had industrial era technologies like steam engine, electricity, and internal combustion engine. And the reason I'm giving this is because it is important for us to know how history has played out, for us to know how we are going to have to deal with AI, right? Now, one other thing that happened is that most of these technologies took some time, right? If you look at the modern day, I'm just going to maybe see if I can post it. Yeah, I can. I'm just trying to push it a little higher so that you can see the screen. So if you look at it, industrial era, then you have modern general purpose technologies like telecom. Now, telecom, from the time you invented to the time you got a phone in your hand, it's a long journey, right? Similarly, computers, right? They had quite a long journey. Internet also started 95. Everything around us changed with the advent of internet. And as Dr. Shuchin said, we come from a time when we have seen all of these evolve. Like if you are working in 95, I'm just giving an example. If you are working in 95, there is a very good chance that you did not have a PC at your desk, right? There is a very good chance you did not have a mobile. But if you think about it, even back then, people were going to work and they were getting things done. So it is not that work wasn't happening, but the way we work has changed. Now with AI, something interesting is happening, which is it is not just changing the way we work, but it's happening at an unprecedented speed, right? So electricity, from the time it was invented to the time we were able to figure out, how to kind of channelize the generation of electricity and get the light bulb, right, took 100 odd years, right? With AI, that cycle is getting shorter. What also happens, if you think about it, all the other technologies basically allowed you to do physical labor, in an easier way. Like instead of me swimming, I could go on a boat, right? Or instead of me writing 100 books, I could get it printed. All of it had a physical component, right? But for the first time with artificial intelligence, what we are also seeing is cognitive labor is actually getting outsourced to the computer, right? What do you mean by cognitive labor? Cognitive labor is your ability to think. So for the first time, humans are confronted with this very uncomfortable thought ki if whatever I think and I know, if that is going to get done by AI, then what does that leave me with, right? So this is the background I wanted to just kind of give a sense. And one thing that I was always confused is with buzzwords. So just to make sure that we are all on the same page, AI as a word was invented in 1956, right? You had machine learning, you had deep learning, and then you had generative AI, which is what we are talking about now. So when I say AI, I may be using that as a general term, but remember ChatGPT and what happened post that is a different type of AI. It is called generative AI. Now, what is the difference between this, larger AI, predictive AI, and generative AI? Predictive AI, as you see, has been a science that's been there for quite some years. You need to get data. You need to kind of, get your machine learning, and it helps you with certain complex things. But what I'm going to do today is I'm going to focus on this part, which is generative AI. Now, what is generative AI? Generative AI, there is a way by which they have been able to harness the power of artificial intelligence. You would have probably heard of a term called LLM, right? It's a large language model. For practical purposes, the way you look at it is there is a big computer called LLM, and I have to give query to the LLM and it gives me an answer back, right? That is the easiest way for us to look at it. So just wanted to make sure that we are correct on the terminology bit. The other thing that I've always been confused is, people will ask, "Arey, tumko AI aata hai kya?" Yaar, AI aata hai, it's a very, like, हाँ आता है, लेकिन how much, right? So it's a very confusing word, right? So what I found out that Deloitte and NASSCOM actually came up with a kind of a system where they said, look, knowing AI means there are 5 levels of AI. At the very bottom is AI literate. What is AI literate? AI literate is even the person in the front desk should know how to go to ChatGPT and ask some basic queries, because This is the equivalent of, let's say, we used to have this resume, we used to write key knowledge of MS Office is required, correct? So this is now become the equivalent of knowledge of MS Office is required, right? So people are expected to know how to at least query and ask certain basic things from an LLM. Level 2 is AI enthusiasts. These are people who are working. This is a marketer who wants to be a better marketer, an accountant who can be a better accountant, or any functional role. How can I become better, faster, cheaper by using AI? Correct. So this is the category called AI enthusiast. And I feel that 80% of the audience will be in level 1 and level 2, right? There are some people who will work to integrate AI into existing workflows, but there is going to be fewer people who work as AI architects and eventually AI experts. See, the jobs at OpenAI or Anthropic or any of these AI companies, you require a PhD, and that's a completely different AI. We don't want to get there. So we are not at level 3, 4, 5, but I would hope that we are all at level 1 and 2, and we are just trying to make ourselves better, 10x more productive using AI. Right? So that was one thing that I wanted to just get out of the way. Now, here is a very interesting quote that came from this guy. So Andrej Karpathy is one of the predominant data scientists, AI programmers. He is the guy who wrote the autopilot program in Tesla, right? So you can imagine in terms of programming, he's like the guru, right? But he is now saying that the hottest new programming language is English. So what does he mean by that? So what it comes down to is that we can work with AI, and I'm going to be showing you a demo very shortly. But before I get into that demo, I wanted to point out a very important thing when we are interacting with AI. So what you see over here is a centaur, and on the right you see a cyborg. Cyborg is half human, half machine, whereas centaur is half human, half horse. A lot of times when we work with AI or we work with computers in general, we are using it like a centaur. So in a centaur, what happens? The part that is human and the part that is computer is very clear. So for example, I can go to the computer, go to the AI, I can give it data, and I can say, analyze, crunch this data. It gives me the analyzed data. I pick that data, then I go talk to my client, talk to my vendors, whoever, correct? So there is a very clear demarcation who is human, what is the AI doing. But what is happening, especially when we start working with AI, is you will see that more and more you are going to be in a cyborg mode. And what happens in a cyborg mode is you don't go to a computer or an AI chatbot and you don't ask it everything and it doesn't give you the response in one shot. Rather, you start off, let me give you a marketing example. You want to write a blog, right? So you go to AI and you say, hey, I'm thinking of a topic to write on, and this is something I have in mind. Can you tell me 10 titles I can have for my blog? Not one, not two, 10 titles. What AI does is AI will give you divergent views. Great use case. I now get to know a lot of things, including what I did not know that I did not know. I see, अरे AI ये बता रहा, अच्छा ये भी कर सकते हैं. मेरे को पता नहीं था. When I started prompting, in my mind I did not know that. But when I started prompting, I saw something. I say, that looks interesting. Can you tell me more about that? And then what happens? AI takes you into a particular kind of route, and then you eventually develop your blog or your article. Correct? So what I'm submitting to you is, don't think of AI as something where we go with regimented code. See, again, I'll tell you what happens. People who come from a programming background, they actually have a lot of trouble because all their life they have been centaurs. Correct? So what they will do, they'll say, "Acha, main AI ko jaake I'll give it X, and I will get Y result." What you'll realize, if I'm assuming I spoke to Vandana and she said that many of you have been using ChatGPT and tools like this, what you will realize is that we go to AI, you will give it X, it will sometimes give you Y. And next time you ask the same thing, it will give you Z. Okay, so everyone who's faced this frustration, I will just tell you a small reason why this happens. All algorithms, and I'm going to use a slightly technical term, but I don't want to, kind of get you scared. Most software algorithms are deterministic. Deterministic means मैंने X डाला मेरे को वहां से Y मिलेगा, right? 2 plus 2 is always equal to 4. But for the first time, what these LLMs or these AIs are doing, they are working with a predictive algorithm, which means they are merely predicting the next probability of the next word that will appear, right? In other words, there is no way I can guarantee that इस बार X दिया तो Y आया, next बार, it can be Z also, correct? And which is why people with humanities background, commerce background, arts background, anyone who's non-technical can work very well with AI if you treat it like a human. If you treat it like a computer, you will not get best results. If you treat it like a human, you talk to it, you scold it, you reward it, right? You actually get better results from the AI. Okay, so now I'm going to get to the point where I'm just going to show you something on how do I talk to computers, right? How do I talk to AI? So like we talk to humans, we need to also figure out what is the best way for me to talk to a AI. Now, there are some ways in which you can remember that, hey, AI needs to know certain things about what needs to be performed, correct? So I'm going to give you some simple building blocks and explain what these building blocks are. And after that, give you some examples that I've created. And we will go and, directly start using the chatbot to get some answers. So the first thing that I want to tell the AI, and this is funny, I see a lot of people when they are prompting, they end up missing this, which is telling what the task is. Correct? If you don't tell the AI what the task is, you write a lot of things, but you don't tell it what you want, you are obviously not going to get that. In fact, if you ask me, many of you would have heard of this word prompt engineering, correct? I think that word engineering has been fitted by these technical folks, क्योंकि उसमें कोई engineering है ही नहीं. If you ask me, prompt engineering is nothing but clear writing, and clear writing comes when you have clear thinking. In fact, a large part of working with AI is going to be that you need to know what you want, how AI will figure out. So you don't need to figure out the how. But what I want sometimes can be very hard. So I sometimes suggest people that even before you start prompting, hold back, think about it, right? What is the task? What is the context? This is a very, very important thing that people miss out, which is we live in the real world. Correct? I'm interacting with people. There is so much contextual information that I know that the AI is not going to know. So how well am I able to give the context of the situation? How well am I able to give examples of what I want in my output? Do I want it to be a report? Do I want it to be a presentation? Do I want it to be an email? All of those things comes in exemplars. Persona. Now you can also ask the AI to take on a persona. Many a times when I'm thinking very deeply about, let's say, a business problem, I actually give a prompt like this. I say, act like you're a Harvard MBA who is working in McKinsey, Bain, BCG for the last 10 years. You're being paid $100,000 to solve this problem for me. Now give me an answer. You wouldn't believe the quality of the answer just goes up. Right? See, the thing is, funny thing, and I'm just going to put this over here so that all of you understand. Nobody knows how the AI is giving the answers. Even if you go and ask the people at OpenAI, here, how is this answer coming out? Even they will not know, because that is something which is under the hood. People have not been able to really figure out. But if you give it a persona, if you say act, I'm just making it up, but even if you say act like a particular specialist or a particular doctor, right, it will be able to don that role and give you answers that are more specific. What is the format that I want it in? And finally, what is the tone? Very, very important that we also specify the tone, because many a times what happens is in communication, the golden rule is between sender and receiver. correct? There is a sender of information, there is a receiver of information. Any message is only good enough if the receiver is able to understand, correct? So if the sender says, "Yaar, mera mail to bahut, matlab, I had used all fancy words and I wrote of it," no point. You have to make sure that it is something that is received by the person who is going to read your message. So specifying what kind of tone you want in your response can also be a great way to kind of tell the AI what you're looking at. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to be opening up, a ChatGPT instance over here. So just wanted to make sure that all of you kind of are on the same page. So I'm going to give you some basic primer. Right now I'm using ChatGPT, but whatever I'm telling you, whether it's ChatGPT, whether it's Grok, whether it's Claude, whether it's Google Gemini, see, all of these are foundational models, correct? कोई ऐसा ना कि नहीं बोलेगा अरे मैंने Gemini use किया तो my answers weren't so. It is all good, right? Some use cases you'll see some chatbots are slightly better than the others in some very specific use case, but apart from that, you don't need to worry, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use ChatGPT as my go-to. Now, if you look at it, what ChatGPT does is it gives you various models, right? Now, what is a model? As I mentioned, the LLM on the backside, on the back end, correct? I can choose which LLM I want to work with depending on the nature of my job, right? If I have a routine question, correct, that I just want to know something, right? When is the new season of this Netflix show coming up, correct? Patal Lok season 2, when is it coming out? I'll just go to GPT-4, correct? And if you see this, it has a search button, which tells me that it has access to the internet now. And I can just say, when is the next season of Patal Lok coming out, right? So I made a typo also, but I hope it understands that, okay, it came out on June 25th, and it also has citations. So if it's a very quick query, I use it. In fact, I use it in lieu of Google. And I'll tell you why. I know a lot of you love Google, but here is my take. Google is a means to the end. If I go to Google, I'll say, okay, show me 5 ways by which I can decorate my house. It will say, okay, here are some inspirations to decorate your home. You will go to Google, you will read that article, and then you'll come back and you'll have to go do something. But with AI, I can directly do it, right? It's not a means, it's the end. I'll say, hey, I want to design my house. Can you help me design my house, right? So, which is why I kind of use AI for a lot of these quick searches. You have some advanced models also over here. So 4.5 is a slightly more advanced model, and it also what the companies will do is the more advanced models will come with some kind of a restriction, correct? For example, GPT 4.5, there are only so many messages I can ask because it also costs more for the company to run those queries, right? But 4.5. But you also see this, there is O3 and O3 mini high, O1. These are all what is called as reasoning AIs. Reasoning AI में क्या होता है? When you give it a prompt, it will not execute the prompt. It will actually think about the prompt. It will say, what does the user want? And it will get into understanding what you're saying from the prompt and give you something which is more. So let me see if I ask the same question, and this time I'm using, let's say, advanced reasoning, O1, and I say, when is the new season for Patal Lok? So sometimes what you'll also see is there is no search over here, correct? Because this is not something that is a use case. This is a use case of using O1 when you want to think deeply about a problem. Many people use it for logic. So look at this, it's reasoning. It is saying, I am confirming the request for Patal Lok second season, which was announced in 2021, correct? Now you see the response is very different. If you remember 4.0, we got the date Jan 6, 17th, 2025, but यहाँ पे there are two problems. First problem, I didn't have search over here. Search is disabled. Second, it's a reasoning thing. So this is not a good question to ask a reasoning engine. correct? A reasoning engine, a great question to ask is, if I were to produce OTT series in India, what kind of genre should I consider? Now, why is this a great question? Because now you want to think, acha, मैं horror पकड़ूं? Can I pick adventure? Can I pick something else? So what it will do, it will now go a little deeper. So it actually reasoned for nine seconds, correct? So it is saying I'm gathering data. So it's also figuring out, ki boss, the ones that were very famous, Scam 1992, in case you have not seen that excellent series, and also Panchayat, right? I think most of us have seen that. So it's saying that based on that, it is giving me now options. Ki crime thriller investigative dramas. All of this data it did not need because it had it with it. So I did not go and search online, but I already had this. So based on that, I'm giving some examples of what are the kind of genres that one could go for. Correct. So this is a basic, idea of how we'll use. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch back to 4.0. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give a sample scenario. So my first sample scenario is, let us say that I want to, let me just go back and this. So let me say that Cygnus decides to give diabetes awareness to its patients, correct? So now I can tell, give me something about diabetes awareness that can be shared with patients. Now, if I give you a prompt like this, what it does is you'll still get an answer, right? But the problem with this is that it is going to be generic, correct? So it doesn't know. So it is saying that, look, here is what I feel that you can share over WhatsApp, poster, email, social media. So it's saying, know the warning sign, take charge with 3 simple steps, remember. So it is giving you something for social media, but it's not very clear because I have not told it what I want out of it. So what it gave me, is it good? The answer is it's good, right? But it is not something that is going to address my situation. So here is what I'm going to do. Let me start off with the task. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'll give a task. So I'm just pasting it over here. So I now say the task is develop easy to understand educational content. Now I'm specifying, rather than saying diabetes, I'm saying type 2 diabetes management for newly diagnosed patients, correct? So people who have already been, who may know, but so now I have to give context, correct? So the context is, I'm going to write it out here. Many times when patients get to know they are diabetic, they assume it is not reversible. So I'm just giving some context, right? So this is common knowledge that people typically try to kind of this. What I can also do is, I can also in this case ask it to refer to, let's say, some website. For example, I could say, please follow the guidelines laid out in icmr.gov.in, correct? Now, what may happen is that I may also want to give certain things which is very Indian context, right? So I would say include jowar and let's say bajra in your diet. Now, this is something I'm giving again as a context because the LLM is not going to figure out what is jowar and bajra, correct? And many a times the diet recommendation that may come out would be more suited for a Western audience, correct? Or I could say also start doing yoga. So I'm just giving some more context to what I want, right? Now I could say, what do I want it to be? So I'm going to say, write as a diabetes educator, correct? As an educator, someone who is, assume very basic English proficiency of of the patient. So I'm saying, look, the patient is not going to understand very complex language. So make sure that you are using something that is this. Now, in terms of format, I could say, give me the output as a Q&A, correct? So instead of giving points, I could say just use Q&A, and I could say be supportive, because these are all first time, right? So you want to kind of this supportive and empowering. So now what you've seen is I gave a prompt which is slightly more specific, and let us see what the output is going to be. Again, I'm using the base model, which is 4.0, correct? Now it has gotten all of these. It is saying, look, I'm going to make it supportive, simple in a Q&A style. I'm going to talk about type 2 diabetes. I'm going to design it for people with basic English skills, and I'm going to follow the ICMR recommendations and include things like Jowar, Bajra, and yoga as part of the management plan. Correct? So now if you see what it does, it gives you a nice Q&A format, right? What is type 2 diabetes? Is diabetes lifelong disease? Can it be reversed? What food should I eat every day? Right? So it is giving me some examples that are, more Indian. What should I drink? Right? So here again, if you see contextually, it is picking coconut water, buttermilk, and answer what are the top questions. So if you think about it, these are the questions that people have. Now you go back to this, right? This was very generic. It says this is a warning sign. Right? This guy has already been told that he has diabetic, right? So telling what is a warning sign doesn't make sense. But here, what I have is I have a question which I say, so this is a question that say, will I need the medicine forever? Correct? Because everybody like, for the rest of my life I have to take this. Or the question could be, I'm scared. Correct? Can I live a normal life? Right? So these are all very obvious questions, but things that people may have when they are diagnosed. So now what you have is you have something which also gives you a nice simple next step, and there you go. You can now turn it into a handout. It's asking you, right? You want a video voice script, you want a WhatsApp message series. So I say, give me a WhatsApp message series. So I've already gotten this. Give this info for a WhatsApp message series. Now what is going to happen is it is going to take all of it and it's going to give you a 8-day plan. And this is basically what it's going to do. That day 1, day 2. So the same questions have been broken into multiple days, right? Now here is something that many of you might have heard if you have been following the news, that ChatGPT also has this ability to create images, right? So this image creation capability can be unlocked by just saying, can you create a nice infographic out of it? Okay. So now the moment I say create an infographic, what it's going to do is going to take all of that information, but it's going to now present it in a nice visual way. And that's what it's going to generate right now. And while we are waiting for that, we are about at about 5:10. I have a couple of more examples that I'm going to show, post which I'll be getting to the last bit. So just wanted to give a sense. So let's just see what it's generating. It usually takes maybe a minute or so, but so this is something that did not exist even a few weeks ago, correct? So a lot of people who come from a design background may find it interesting that instead of me going to Photoshop and editing such an image, I can actually get it right out of the box, right? While it's getting developed, I just wanted to kind of get to some other parts that I had in the PPT, and then we'll come back to ChatGPT. So this is what my submission to you is, which is when you are interacting with AI. And the other thing that you can do, see, I have AI on my phone, and this is voice. The thing with voice is it's a very different way of interacting, but many times when I'm in the car and I'm going, I can ask questions like this. I could say, hey, I've been thinking about this problem and I'm just making this up. Okay, I have diabetes, type 2 diabetes, and I'm just trying to think. I love to eat junk food. So how do I really manage diabetes if I love junk food?
Managing type 2 diabetes while loving junk food can be challenging, but it's all about balance. You could try healthier versions of your favorite snacks, like baked instead of fried, or using natural sweeteners. It's also good to balance.
Okay, I have a question for you. Is Good Day biscuit good for me if I have diabetes?
Good Day biscuits, like most packaged snacks, do have sugar and refined flour, which might not be the best choice if you have
So
diabetes.
what you see is I am actually interacting with it as a person. I'm asking questions. Hey, Good Day biscuit, good or bad? So I think one is using it and typing out your answers, but I also highly encourage that you have a voice mode. Many tools today have voice mode because that's more natural. And this part, no, number two, context. I can give a lot of context when I'm talking about a problem, right? So voice mode definitely works over there. So, now the question comes that, Arun, if everything is going to be done by AI, then what does it leave for us as humans, right, to do? So I believe that you can have AI as a superpower. See, a lot of times what happens, I feel, is if we look at AI and if I think of AI as a crutch, right? If I think of AI as a crutch, how will I feel? I'll feel like a handicap, right? I feel I'm physically challenged. I can't do this. Like it's mentally challenged, right? That I can't answer a question. So I don't think of AI as a crutch. I think of AI as a superpower, right? And many a times what I've also seen is people, the way they talk about AI also needs to change, correct? Which means that if someone comes and says, well, I wrote something with AI, right? And the output is crap. Well, it is not because of AI. It is because you did not think through enough for you to get the output that you wanted, correct? So I think the three superpowers that we as humans have is we still have our ability to critically think, correct? AI can assist you. AI can be a good co-thinker. So when you have an idea, for example, one thing that all of us suffer from, at least I suffer from, is a optimism bias. कोई भी नया आइडिया दिखता है ना, मुझे लगता है fantastic, this will just rock, right? So I am blindsided to the things that can cause it to fail. So human nature है, क्योंकि you want to start something, you always think, अरे हो जाएगा. So what I do, I go to AI and I say, hey, I think this is the plan. You tell me 10 things why it will fail. In fact, this was something that was taught to us by Baba Shiv. In fact, it's a technique called pre-mortem, right? So AI does a fantastic job doing a pre-mortem. Pre-mortem is before a project even starts, ask now why it will fail. Give me 10 reasons why it will fail, correct? So I think a lot of use cases for us to critically think. The second is, curiosity. I think for the first time in humanity, right, every answer, see, I cannot be a neurosurgeon by, looking at ChatGPT, right? Let me be very clear. I know AI cannot lift a box, correct? AI cannot do certain things, but AI has knowledge of anything and everything that you want. AI can give you knowledge. Today, you don't have a reason to say that I did not know something because I did not have access to certain things, right? Going back to my example of 1995, and I'm just picking a date that is 30 years earlier, but 1995, if I had to get some knowledge, either I had to go to the university or I had to go to a library or I had to go to some specific person who had that information. Today, that information is right there on your phone. If you don't have ChatGPT on your phone, you're missing out on something, correct? Any question you have, you can just, as I said, use the voice mode, ask it. And the third thing is communication, right? And the thing with communication is, as with all things, right, we have to understand who is the audience that we are saying and speaking to, and use AI wisely. Now, when I usually talk about these things I have certain pushbacks, right? Like sometimes people ask me this, and this is something that I see that Arun, I feel AI hallucinates. Hallucination is nothing but making up things, right? It will make up things that don't exist. But here is my, and this is a funny joke on that. Okay, so if Trump can be the president of the US, right? AI to kya hai yaar, computer is a software, right? So I think, humans lie. So the AI has been written to please you. You understand? That is what it's programmed. That when you ask me a question, my job is to please you. So if you say, oh, does this happen? It will say, yeah, it will happen. But this is a problem that actually has been, kind of to a large extent, most AIs have started figuring out. This was more a 2023 problem. 2025, most of them, you can have citations. Hallucination has been reduced to a great extent, correct? And coming to this communication, there is another meme that I saw that I wanted to share over here. And I'm going to give you like a second to just read through it, but I find it very relevant to workplaces. So when I show it to people, a lot of people, they just laugh. Like, "Arey, yehi to ho raha hai hamare saath." So I see that, managers who are till yesterday complaining कि यार ये कुछ mail नहीं लिखता है, he doesn't know how to write. Suddenly they are getting 10 page long emails, correct? And the manager is now putting that email into AI and saying, summarize it for me, correct? So the idea is just because you can create content doesn't mean that you should. As I said, always remember that there is a person who's consuming your content, correct? And that person consuming your content should get that information in the most concise way. Here is one litmus test I use. Is this stuff that I would read? If the answer to it is no, please do not send it. Because the guy who is receiving it is not going to be impressed by what you have written because he knows you have taken help of AI. So the idea is to personalize it and make sure that what you're sending out is something that has your stamp. So here is a good way in which I look at it. The first version can come from AI, but the final version will come from me, right? So when I send that email, I send that report, I cannot go back and say, "Arey, main ChatGPT ne kiya ya." No. It's my output to you. Remember, in a cyborg mode, right? Sometimes I have these people ask me this question, which is, Arun, what percentage of it was written by you? What percentage of it was written by AI? And I find that question very bizarre, right? Because it's 100% written by me, but it's 100% written by AI, correct? But it's happened because of this amazing jugalbandi that I was able to create with AI, correct? So that's where, it's very important that when we look at communication, we take the responsibility, right? Just because we are able to produce content doesn't allow us the right to produce it. And as I said, sometimes, people say, what can it not do? Very honestly, it can't do your laundry and dishes, correct? And I found this very interesting. I'm just going to let you read it. Right? So, so if you look at it, there is blue-collared labor, right? So blue-collared labor, then you have what is called as white-collared labor, correct? White-collared labor, at least it's a desk job, you're not doing physical labor. And then you have what is called as knowledge worker. And then finally, you have creative work, correct? Now, what has happened with AI is has actually started in the opposite way. It started with creative work. Think about it. It can write beautiful poetry. It can compose music, right? That is why the Hollywood writers are on a strike, because they know that 2029 tak, the VFX is going to be completely generated. I don't need human actors. Shah Rukh Khan will never die. Why? Because his avatar will always come in movies, correct? So that is the first thing that got. Then what happened? Then it came for all the knowledge work. In case you have not heard the news, AI can code. right? And AI can code really well. So a lot of software engineers who are worried, correct? Ki boss, what do I do? Um, well, they are really staring at a future where they are not going to be code writers, but they are going to be code reviewers. In fact, this is going to happen to a lot of jobs. Like I don't have a blog writer, I'll have a blog reviewer, correct? And then you have white collar, which is relatively safe, but you know what, blue collar, there is really nothing much. So if you're a nursing staff, I still need you. Geriatric care, I need you, correct? It is like a kindergarten teacher, right? So no matter how much of AI comes, I still want my kid to learn from a human, correct? So there are certain things AI cannot do, but if your job involves sitting in front of a laptop and doing things remotely, then there is a very high chance that your job can be done by AI. So the idea is, how do I therefore become the human in the loop? So I'll maybe conclude by giving one example. So this is actually I was featured in a podcast by Stanford called Grit and Growth. And this is one of the quotes I had, which is, what AI does is it makes good very easy, but great is still very hard. And I'll give this as a personal example. So in my business, we write essays as part of our application services. So people who are applying to universities abroad, as you may be aware, they have to write something called as a statement of purpose, or there are some goals essays. Why do you want to do it or not? We use AI to actually generate these essays, correct? But the deal is, you know that AI on a scale of 1 to 10 can generate a 7 or a 7.5. So if you are a 4 out of 10, what will happen? You look at a 7 and you'll think, "Arey, ye to perfect hai." Correct? You have to be at a 9 to say, "Boss, ye to 7.5 hai." I will tell you what tweaks to make in order to get it to 9. This could be in the form of prompting. This could be in the form of looking at the output, using my judgment as a human and adding value to it. Correct? So that's one thing I wanted to give it for your submission. And I just had one last this. Let me just go back. Just 1 second. Yeah. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to share. Voila. So we got a nice looking image, right? From the prompt, correct? So it's a nice image. You can obviously, I can add, Cygnus Ujala logo, and I can say share it on social media, correct? So all of that is also possible. Now, just before we wrap up and get to the Q&A, I also wanted to show, there are some tools that you can use. Again, ChatGPT by itself is more than enough, but in case you want to use some tools, there are some tools that you can use. So I'm going to show you a couple of tools just so that you get a sense. So I use this tool for creating diagrams. It is called napkin.ai. So maybe Vandana, you can post it on the chat in case people are interested. But let me just show you. Type 2 diabetes. Now, if I want to understand this and if I want to kind of look at it, what it will do is it will give me the text of the topic that I put in, right? So it says these are the risk factors, these are the management strategies, and so on. Now what happens, I look at it and I say management strategies. Let me try to put this in the form of a visual, because remember, people are able to figure out visuals a lot better. So can I create a visual out of it? So let me try this. So it has given me this healthy eating, regular exercise, weight management. So what you see over here are various ways in which the same thing can actually be given to you, correct? So you have this, you have this. So I'm just looking at all the possible. Wow, this looks nice. So you have a nice, keychain. And what you're really saying is that to manage type 2 diabetes, you need to have all of these keys. So if I like it, what I can do, I can click on it. It will give me various styles within that I can use. I can pick one style and here I can just click and download this, right? So this is a great tool I use if I have any presentations, if I want to explain any concepts, gives it to me in a nice way. I'm also going to be showing you one more called Gamma. So what happens in Gamma is you can actually generate a nice presentation by just giving what you want to make. Diabetes type 2. So I'm just going to give this type 2 diabetes management, right? Now, what it's going to do is this AI is going to say, well, if you want to talk about type 2 diabetes, what are the various things that you would talk if you want to give a presentation, correct? So it is giving me the comprehensive management, understanding, blah, 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 medication. Now over here, I can edit it, but if I think, well, this looks to be good, I can just go ahead and click on generate. And what this will do is it will give me a presentation. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pick some options. So I've just picked a kind of a template. This is the tool that I was talking about. It's called Gamma, correct? And what Gamma does is I just gave a prompt. So in the prompt, I just gave type 2 diabetes management. And what it did is it created an entire kind of presentation based on that. And I can choose, of course, what style I want it, and I can go and even on a particular slide level, I can, edit it. But what you see is a very comprehensive PPT that gets generated out of a single. I actually gave just these 4 words: type 2 diabetes management, 3 words. Okay, type 2 diabetes management, and this is what it actually gave me. So this is one other tool called Gamma. There is a tool by an Indian, this is my last tool. This is a tool by an Indian company. I don't know, not an Indian company, it's an American company, Perplexity. And Perplexity is started by a person from IIT Madras. His name is Arun Jagannathan. It's been touted at about, we are going to raise something at $18 billion, correct? So what Perplexity can do is, let us say type 2 diabetes management, they have this thing called deep research, correct? When you give deep research, what it's going to do is it's going to go and do a very thorough, so you see this, it takes about 30 minutes to thoroughly research. So we may not be possibly, waiting for it to kind of get done. But what it does is it kind of breaks your tasks into subtasks. And each of the subtasks, it will go out and look at all the sites which are talking about that. For example, if you see, most of it is picking from Mayo Clinic, diabetes, American this. So it is picking from repeated sources. And here it is trying to break down your problem and trying to give, very detailed. So when you see what it generates, you will be amazed, because a lot of analysts are losing their jobs, because what would otherwise take 2 to 3 days is now being done by deep research in about 30 minutes, right? So with that, I'm going to pause. I know this is exactly at the end of the 1 hour mark, and I know I said we will give a little time for Q&A, but I'm going to just wanted to hand it back and say.
So someone is asking whether this, the one for diabetes you were showing, is the paid one, is the paid platform, or is it freely accessible?
Truth be told, I have a paid platform, but you can generate it in the free version also. So the free version, so the only thing that will be different from free and paid is your usage limit. See, these guys want you to use it. Everybody wants you to create a Ghibli. Why? Because then that creates that FOMO ki I will use a paid version. So the free version will give you a little bit, but then after that, some point it will say, we would like you to upgrade.
Yeah, exactly. Another question is there, what do you think the future of corporate creative work looks like with the fast advancement in AI? The nice slide you just generated, I was really amazed to see that. So
So here is my take. I feel that if any profession, correct, especially the ones where you are, let's say, creative or any professional services, any kind of role, you have to, as I said, know how to work with AI, which means that you need to be in the top 20% of your game, right? So think of it this way, your neighborhood DTP guy, correct? There was once, there was a computer and this guy would do those kind of jobs will go out because I don't need a person to do that for me, correct? So what will really happen is if I want a hoarding, right, in some DLF and I want to make it pixel perfect, I will go to a top-notch designer, right? AI may not still be there, but if I want to post a happy Diwali message on my social media, then I don't need a designer, right? So the bottom 80% is where I think a lot of jobs kind of, are going to get this. So, but if you are in something, being in the top 20%, you know that you are still required.
Yeah, that's great. Another question is, someone is asking, is it safe to put our hospital information into these AI tools? And what about patient data?
Right. Great question. So I'm going to answer it in two ways. The first way is, in general, one should never put any patient confidential information online, correct? So I think that is something that probably you have kind of a reservation over at any point. But the way I would like you to think of it is, OpenAI has been, like, if you look at it, Microsoft is really invested in OpenAI. So the OpenAI security, privacy, and safety clauses will mimic what Microsoft Teams will also have. So if you are comfortable using Microsoft Teams and Microsoft Office, then you should be comfortable using, let's say, Microsoft. Same argument I can give for Google, right? So most of these OpenAI. So one thing I want to also clarify is, recently you must have seen there was a lot of this saying that, Acha, will the images we put up for Ghibli, will that be used by the companies? The answer is no. And the reason for that is there is something called as training data. I will take your data and I will train my model on it. No company will do that, right? So they will not use it for training data. They are going to give it only to service your answer. So you don't need to worry. But yes, if it's protected information, better not to put it online.
Yeah, so before we wind up, I would like to ask two more questions. And I would request all the participants to turn on your camera. The access has been given to all of you just to mark your attendance. The next question is, how do I know if what the AI gives me is correct? Do I need to check everything?
That's a good question. So the thing is, there are two types of things you're going to get from AI. So if it is factual data, what will happen is most of the AIs which have a search option will give you a citation, which means I can click and I can see from where it is picking this. So most AIs, if they are doing a search, will give you access to that. So if I am very wary of the information I'm putting out there, I will always do a search, go to the citation, read the original source before I kind of take it as an answer.
And the next question is, what happens if the AI gives me completely wrong information and I don't catch it?
See, my take would be that the chances of it giving wrong information, as I said, is very unlikely. I don't know how many of you remember 2023, there was this case where a lawyer went and he put some cases and all the citations it gave were fictitious and made up. That was 2023. This is 2025, right? So a lot of AI has kind of moved in the part where it will give you citations, it will not hallucinate as much. But that's a risk, which is why the human in the loop is very important. So as a human, I have to use my judgment, correct? So if I'm not able to use my judgment, then that answer can be produced by anyone. So what am I doing, right? So I am here to validate whatever is given as an output is right or wrong. So I think that's where we have to take a slight responsibility.
Yeah, that's great. So we all were busy just creating the Ghibli images, and after this session, we are equipped with lots of new things and new advancements in AI. Even I was not aware about it. And I'm really fascinated because I always work with doctors, scientists, and when a senior professor or a senior leader of the organization asks me and suggests me how to use AI in my work, so I'm really fascinated that everyone is getting upgraded, even the people who are so busy in their lives and they are at top level and they are still aware about the AI. And that's how we are growing. And as we come to the close of this enriching session on practical generative AI implementation, I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to our distinguished speaker, Mr. Arun, for sharing his invaluable insights and real world experiences. This session has not only deepened our understanding of what's possible with this generative AI, but also shown us practical pathways to begin implementing it meaningfully within our own domains. Special thanks to Dr. Bajaj for his continued support and vision in driving innovation within our organization. And of course, thanks to all of you for your active participation and curiosity. Let's take this conversation forward through collaboration, experimentation, and continuous learning. The future of AI is not just coming, it's already here, and it's up to us to make the most of it. Thank you, everyone. Thank you once again, and have a great day ahead.